This is why these discussions are so great. A reoccurring theory over my last few videos turned out to be true in these final 2 episodes. We're going to talk about it right now. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Episodes 7 and 8 of Outer Range. They are here. We're going to get into it. Going to structure this video just a bit differently because the season has come to an end. We're going to start with overall thoughts and then dive into episodes 7 and 8. Full spoilers, so be warned, but not yet. Just real quick, my overall thoughts on the season. Compelling characters, a story that took its time to play out. Outer Range, it flows a bit differently than other series. I made the modern Western television show comparisons, the obvious one in Yellowstone. But you're bringing in those sci-fi elements, and we started out in episode 1 talking about dark, and it turns out by the time we get to the finale, the dark-ish storyline is full on now. We have people appearing in different time periods. We're not entirely sure how time moves through the hole, what the indications of all of this is. We understand that you can go forwards through time, end up in the future. Now we know we can go backwards. There were just so many things given to us in these final 2 episodes that not only answered a few of my questions, certainly not all of them, right? But for the most part, gave us something to go off of and something to gravitate towards going into season 2. I appreciate that and respect that. Obviously, the look of the series, like I said, cinematography-wise, the score got a bit better. Not the most memorable score of all time. I think the biggest issue people are going to have, well, I have 2. The pacing, which it did struggle in the middle of the season, just trying to figure out exactly what the series is going for. That was part of my issue. But also the sheer number of questions we have. Even though this finale answered some of those questions, we're left with a lot to ponder upon, and then a lot in terms of a cliffhanger. And oh boy, there are a lot of cliffhangers. So let's start with the hole.
That's what she said.
What do we know about the hole at this moment in time? The rules aren't entirely clear. It's not all there for us after these 8 episodes. First, we thought, okay, it's people. Then we found out people and objects. Now it's people, objects, and animals, because in these final 2 episodes, we see the buffalo numerous occasions where they're going through the hole and ending up going forwards and backwards through time. So, like I said, there has to be some sort of an indication as to where you're going when you go into the hole. I just haven't quite figured that out yet. This is the part where I need your theories. We have to theorize in the comments. Best one gets nothing, but you're awesome. The one that got me was Trevor's body, right? We understand that numerous people at this point have went into the hole willingly or unwillingly, and they'll appear in the late 1800s, further along in the future. But Trevor's body disappears through the hole, appears, what was it, 8 days later, but it had only been hours. What was the reasoning behind that period of time and just the why of it all? I'm trying to figure out the why, and my brain just can't compute for each situation that is so distinctly different with the characters. And then we have the whole disappearing and coming back. Well, does it actually disappear, though? Because in the final episode, Luke is digging obsessively, and the hole comes about, introduces this giant horde of buffalo, and this is where, again, we're confirming that animals can travel through the hole. They trample him on their way out. They're trampling Autumn and Royal when they're in their situations. So does it really disappear when it disappears, or does it just cover itself up, but it's still there, right? It's the portal, if you will. I keep going back to dark. It's that entity. I'm making those comparisons in my head, and while it's not as complex of a story, it is just as interesting in this point in time. I don't like it as much. We can also go off of the whole and talk about the 2, I would say, the 2 biggest reveals in these final 2 episodes. And number 1 is, of course, confirming, I believe there was one theory in one of my videos over the last couple of weeks that actually got this almost spot spot on. So huge congrats. A wonderful comment. Royal traveled as a kid after shooting his father inadvertently from 1886 into the 1960s, into the time period that we know now, and actually appears in front of Wayne, climbing out of the hole, scaring Wayne, and this is the moment that was the beginning of what we see in this rivalry between the two ranch owners, and they both know that this was the case. They knew this was the case, but they've kept that a secret from everyone. Of course, obviously, Royal spilling the beans in this episode, but everyone up until now. So the question that I'm asking myself is, did Wayne keep that a secret? We assume he did, but there may be someone somewhere that he has told. Regardless, that is an interesting backstory. It pits these two rivals against each other in such a way and gives us a history between them that we did not even know about. It kind of tells me that Wayne is going to be okay, even though his son's singing. That's going to kill him eventually. Well, now it can't. And then we have Amy Autumn, the Amy Autumn storyline where Amy is now missing. She's gone. Why is she gone? Because her mother, Rebecca, returns. This confirms a few episodes earlier when she was seen driving in her vehicle. Now, the question is, where has she been all of this time? Why is she just kind of wandering around, unless that question was answered and I just missed it? Why is she wandering around? But she finally finds her daughter, confronts her, and takes her with her. So Amy is missing, never to return, right? Wrong. She returns in the form of Autumn at the beginning of the season because the biggest theory is a theory that is coming to light. That is the fact that Amy is Autumn. Autumn is Amy. Just the hints that we get in episode 7 when she's drawing the signs. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's getting weird. Autumn's lost her marbles. Maybe Amy's losing hers. And sure enough, they're the same person. Royal's monologue at the end, I know I'm skipping forward just a little bit, where he's talking about how the hole hasn't just torn through time, it has torn through our family as a whole and really destroyed everything along its path. That's when he reveals to her who Amy actually is, not knowing that she's missing yet in smaller form. And that was an expected revelation. I'm glad we got that revelation this season, didn't have to wait on it. But now the jury's out. The question is, where is Amy? Does Amy get to the point, and here's kind of a theory of sorts with Rebecca, where Rebecca reveals what actually happened to her, and this sets her out on a path, and that path, the result, is what we see in Autumn. That's definitely a route it could go, but I do have a feeling Amy's going to come back eventually and reunite with her family to do something. So I'm watching episode 7. I'm seeing Royal trying to kill Autumn on this four-wheeler, burning down her camp, and that's when Autumn appears to just kind of lose it just a bit more than we've seen. She also drops hints of following her mother's plans. Now we know who her mother is. That tells me that her mother is telling her all of these things that happen, setting her out on this path, but she is completely manic at this point. But then we look at Autumn's mother on the phone, and that has to be Rebecca, right? So what is Rebecca telling her at this moment? Like, how does this dynamic work? Now, say Amy does not see her family again until she's older as Autumn. That makes me think that Rebecca could take her into the future. There could be a younger and older version of Rebecca, 2 versions of each character. We know there's now 2 versions of Amy and Autumn. So there are a lot of things at play that we don't even know about yet that are probably happening right underneath our noses. People are going to be asking the question, Austin, did Autumn actually die? We see a bit of movement in there after she gets trampled by the buffalo. I say absolutely not. There's no way well, I guess they could. There were some unexpected deaths there. There's no way they're going to kill Autumn, even though it looked like a life-threatening injury. I'd say she's just upstairs sleeping. The question is also going to be asked, where in the world did Sheriff Joy go? Like, she's following this path, this trail. It looks as if she's still in the same time period at first, but then she kind of stumbles on a settlement of sorts, and it looks like a Native American settlement. So did she travel back hundreds of years to a distant time in the past to where she's going to have to figure her way out of? That is one of the most fascinating things. one of the huge cliffhangers at the end of this season. Is it just she traveled back to 1886 when Royal is a kid? I feel like it has to be further back than that, but where is she in time right now? And following the path that she followed, was it written in stone? Was this supposed to happen? Because fate is laid out in such a strange way in this series. We hear Autumn tell Royal that he can't change his fate, but then we see the shock on her face when he kills Billy in the midst of that car chase. So was she shocked because she didn't expect it to happen even though she knew it was going to happen? Something told her it was going to happen? Or was it her realizing that fates can indeed change and things aren't as simple as they seem, even though they don't seem very simple? So I think things are a little more complicated than what she is saying. I believe that she is going to start maybe going down a bit of a different path when she realizes that it's not as set in stone as it feels or as it seems. Another big question I'm asking before the whole collapses on itself is, why did Perry jump? Right? We understand that Autumn told him he could go into the future. It doesn't feel like he thought as hard about it as maybe he should have. He is facing consequences for his actions. Obviously, he went, he confessed, he could be regretting it, but there's just not a lot of reasoning given to us for his jump, and the big question is, where does he end up? Is it past or future? Well, since Sheriff Joy went backwards, I believe for some reason, I believe that he is going to move forwards and maybe end up in that future that we see Royal in the first couple of episodes and have to find his way back, or maybe he's stuck there. So clearly we have some resolutions that I've mentioned, but I'm also asking a lot of questions. Is that a good thing? I believe that's up to the viewer at that point, right? A lot of people want cemented answers, and I'm one of those guys that I like to have some of my questions answered, but of course you need something that brings us back for season 2, and now all of these various cliffhangers. Is Autumn alive? I believe she is. Where did Amy go? I believe she went with her mother. Did she go to the future? Did she go to the past? Of course, where are numerous people ending up like our sheriff? Is she stuck in the past? And is Royal's emotions going to overcome him? And we see all of that build up in that final little monologue where he reveals a lot to Cecilia, who is dealing with her own struggle. She shot the bear, by the way. Didn't even talk about that. There are a lot of things in these final 2 episodes that I didn't get the chance to dive into. But man, I wanted to hit on the big elements, and I wanted to tell you guys how much I thoroughly enjoyed this season of television, even though there were moments that made me wish a couple of things were handled and executed just a bit differently, but kept me compelled. I like the Western and sci-fi vibes. It's keeping me interested, and that's all you can ask for with the television show at the end of the day. So I leave this up to you. I need theories. I need your explanations, all of those things in the comments down below. I appreciate you joining big time. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop that thumbs up. It helps the algorithm, and I would love to cover more of these Amazon shows. Just let me know. Come back if you'd like to see it. Doctor Strange spoiler review later today.